Hello, today I have such a stupidly easy tutorial for you. Easier with a machine, you can do it by hand as well, just take the measurements and knit or crochet by hand. But I'll be showing you on machine because I've said it so many times over on my TikTok and maybe on here. I love this machine, it's changed the game. So today I'm going to make a tank top. I've made several of these over on my TikTok, mainly in mohair because I really like how that looks. But today I'm just using a thin black yarn. Is this even yarn when it's this thin? I'm not even sure. It's a lace weight yarn. I really like how this works up. It's just such like a meshy look, but it's almost like a bit wiry as well. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be using. I don't know how many balls I'll need yet, but I will keep you updated. But yeah, I'll just show you how to make this top. It's so easy, but I love it so much. So I'm casting on with scrap yarn, and I always start so I leave the white peg and 2 pink ones, and then this one is my first one. And then to cast on, you just weave in and out of the pegs. Ooh, better than I'm doing. So I've cast on 41 pegs because I know that's what fits me. It's a bit of trial and error finding your sizing with this machine, but once you have it down, you can use that for whatever you make. So yeah, I know that 41 round is about a size 10 top, 8, 10. So yeah, that's what fits me. So now you just want to knit a couple of rounds with scrap yarn and then move on to the yarn you're actually going to be using. So to switch to your actual yarn, and this applies for like changing colour as well, you just pull off your scrap yarn and dump it in the middle. You then take your yarn that you will be using and then just feed it in to the machine and carry on knitting. So it's as easy as that. When I'm using scrap yarn, because I know I'm going to be going back and crocheting the edge to secure it, I leave a pile of my nice yarn in the middle so that I can use that to go back along the edge and crochet it. So I've got my pile there, putting it in the middle and then just feeding the new yarn into the feeder. I'm using it on the tightest tension, but I also do hold it, so it makes it a bit tighter still. I'd always recommend holding the yarn anyway when using this machine. But yeah, now that that is fed in, you just start knitting. For the first couple of rounds, you want to go quite slowly to make sure that it is picking it all up. But then after that, you can go a bit faster and know that it is knitting. So I've just knit 10 rows here, and I'm going to knit 90 rows overall. So I'm just going to carry on doing what I've been doing for 90 rows. Well, 80 more rows now. The row counter on this doesn't really work for panels, or at least it doesn't for me, so I just make a tally every time I get to 10 rows, so that kind of helps me to keep count. You can keep count however you want. A lot of people struggle with dropping stitches at the ends, and the way to avoid this is by making sure your yarn goes under this last ledge after your peg before cranking back round, so you can see it's still under there when you're knitting again. So yeah, you just want to make sure your yarn has gone under that last ledge before you turn and carry on knitting. So now that I've knitted my 90 rows, I've cut my yarn and I'm just, like I did at the beginning, making a little ball of this black yarn to crochet the edge with once I take the scrap yarn out, or like before I take the scrap yarn out. So now I'm changing back to scrap yarn to finish off. So what you want to do is just get back to your last peg with your work on it, feed your yarn through, and then just keep knitting as usual. So then once you've done a few rows of scrap yarn, just take your yarn and put it into the middle. And then this is my favourite thing about using scrap yarn, is that the cast off process is so much quicker, because otherwise you'd have to go through and pick up all the stitches. But when you cast off with scrap yarn, you can just wind your handle until it all falls off. Some of them do get stuck on the hook, but normally once you wind it twice, they should all fall off. So that is one panel done. I probably shouldn't be holding it all scrunched up like this, but I am. That's one panel done. I'm gonna make the same panel and then join you again to show you what we do next. So we've now got two panels pulled off of the machine. They're both 90 rows long and 41 across. They're just stretched a bit differently, but they are the same size. And you can see that they both have scrap yarn on each end, so that's what we're dealing with next. So the way that I secure the ends is I take my ball of black yarn here that I left when I casted it on or off. I can't remember if this is the top or bottom. And then I just start picking up the last black bit before the orange and doing, I think I do like a single crochet. Just trying to remember what I do now. Yeah, I just do a little loop first of all to get the yarn onto my hook, and then I pick up the last black one, wrap it round, pull it through, wrap it round, pull it through. I feel like that's a single crochet. I don't know why words are leaving my brain. But yeah, just pick up the last loop, pull some yarn through, hook it on again, and then pull it through the two on the hook. I'll try and zoom it in, but my camera for some reason doesn't like focusing when it's really zoomed in. Yeah, it's not liking it. So yeah, just to show you again, there's the last black loop before the scrap yarn. You want to pick it up onto your crochet hook, wrap your yarn round, pull it through, wrap it, pull it through the two loops. So I'll do it a few times so you can see, but then we're just doing that along all of the scrap yarn bits, and then we're going to pull the scrap yarn out. You kind of want to do this a bit loose so that you still get some stretch in the top, so I'm probably doing it a tiny bit too tight right now, but I'm also holding it very weirdly, like this isn't natural for me. So yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. The reason I do this rather than casting on and off on the machine is that the machine creates quite rolled edges, and by doing this it lies a bit flatter. It does still roll a little bit, but that can be fixed by either crocheting more at the bottom or wetting it and like pulling it into shape. Like sometimes I like the roll, but sometimes I just want it to lay flat. I'm not quite sure what vibe I want to go for with this top yet, but I'll decide. Yeah, I just find the edges are so much neater casting on and off with scrap yarn, but it's a personal preference and you don't have to do it. But yeah, I'm just going to carry on doing that until they're all done, and then I will join you when I've got two plain black panels without scrap yarn. So now that the ends are secured and the scrap yarn is out, we now need to stitch it all together. So just lay it right side to right side so it's inside out, and then we're gonna sew up the shoulders to make the shoulders. And then I actually want to have a little slit at the bottom, so I'm gonna only stitch the middle bit so that I've got armholes and a slit. I'm yet to work out the measurements. I kind of do it as I go along, but I'll make sure that I put it on screen or do a little voiceover. But yeah, I basically slip stitch everything together, so I'll quickly show you what that means, although I'm not the best at explaining, but hopefully you get the gist, or hopefully you already know what a slip stitch is, so you don't need my bad explanation. You probably should pin it together as well before stitching it together, but I tend to not. I do sometimes, I don't other times. I'm not going to be pinning it together this time just because I know where I'm going to be stitching. Although maybe I'll pin the sides when I do that. I don't know. I'll see. So when stitching it together, you just want to find your corners, so like your end corners at the top, and then poke your needle through 2 stitches on both sides. So where I crocheted to secure the edges, that's created V's. So I then poke my needle through those V's in order to stitch it together and keep it neat. So because this is where I'm attaching my yarn, I don't know if this is the proper way of doing it, but this is just how I do it. I push my needle through once and then kind of just like make myself a loop to start with. But yeah, I don't really know the proper way of doing it. Just attach your yarn to your project and then start slip stitching. So to slip stitch them together, you just want to poke through one V on one side, the V on the other side, wrap the yarn around your hook, and then pull that through the loop you've just made there as well. So I'll do that again. You just want to go through one of your V's on one side, you want to go through the V created on the other side, wrap your yarn round, pull that yarn through both the V's, and then pull it through that loop. And this is the top all sewn up. So I did about 8 slip stitches on each shoulder to do the shoulders, and then I actually ended up joining all the way down. I did kind of want to leave a gap, but then I did that, and like because of the material it just wasn't sitting right, so I just decided to go all the way down. So yeah, now I've got a little meshy tank top. Sometimes I do 2 rows of double crochet here just to add something to the neckline, but I actually quite like this without. So yeah, that's literally it. It's such an easy design to make, and when you use really lightweight yarns, the shaping kind of happens automatically because it can just be like pulled to your body shape. When I use kind of thicker yarns, I do tend to do either some ribbing or some crochet just to like shape the neck up a little bit more and the armholes, but yeah, with this kind of yarn you can leave it there and it's done. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll do lots more tutorials and I'll see you soon.